Over the past 4 weeks, I've eaten close to 200 grams of sugar in the form of chocolate bars. This is what I've learned about beating sugar addiction. Let's cover how it began. So every single day that I drive home from the gym, I take the exact same route and pass by the exact same stores. Essentially, one day, I stopped by one of these stores and I saw a real neat protein bar that was on sale. And the thing is, I can't even wholeheartedly call this a protein bar because it's so high in sugar that I would just consider it to be a candy bar. But I picked up 4 of them. They were on sale and they were very cheap. And essentially I did this every single day for an entire week. Like clockwork, I would drive home, pick up the protein bars, go to work over and over again. And I slowly started realizing that as time went on, I slowly bought more, was eating more of them throughout the day, and that most of my calories started coming from these protein bars, from these chocolate bars, from all of this sugar. Realizing that I was developing an addiction, I decided to push it further and completely give in to all the cravings for the sake of science, and so I could come back and educate you guys on exactly what I did to overcome it. So essentially I followed this for around 4 weeks and I was eating anywhere from 4 to 10 of these bars every single day, which was anywhere from like 1,000 to 2,000 calories coming from just this freaking junk food. And I was getting in basically 100 to 200 grams of sugar per day. So once I was sufficiently addicted, I tried to stop, only to realize that if I changed nothing from my routine, I actually myself wasn't mentally strong enough to just quit them cold turkey, which gave me a very big wake-up call because, you know, I'm like the fitness guy or whatever. I'm supposed to coach people on their dieting. I'm not the one that's supposed to fall for this and have a hard time losing the weight or beating something so simple as a sugar addiction, right? But yeah, I just couldn't stop. Let's first go over how addiction works. So in the simplest terms possible, when we experience some type of pleasure, like an endorphin release from eating chocolate or a food that's high in sugar, it's the endorphin release, which are chemicals that mimic things like heroin and morphine, that makes us actually physically feel good. Now, whenever we get the spike of pleasure, we also get a release of dopamine. Dopamine on its own isn't very euphoric. All it does is it reinforces a certain learning behavior. It tells your brain that you should do this again and it motivates you towards that action once more. And with addiction, eventually a certain behavior, like eating sugar, gets reinforced so much that we can't help but be motivated to repeat the action again. So look at it this way. Let's say you're sledding down a clean hill. It just snowed and there's no sled marks anywhere. You go down once, you eat that very tasty sugary food. You continue sledding and you'll come to find that a lot of the time you end up sledding through the same path. You might start a little differently, but you always end up close to that first initial track because it's engraved deep into the snow compared to all the others. This is exactly how sugar addiction or any addiction works, as a matter of fact. So the best way I found to overcome this is to break the rhythm. I tried a few techniques to get out of eating this junk food. I simply tried the willpower method, which worked a few times. I would drive past the store, you know, get the intense cravings that I want to go buy the sugary snack, and I'd suck it up and go to work, but the next day I would cave in and just go back to eating the bars. I've tried eating something else instead, which also worked a few times, but on the days that I ate something else, I would actually drive back to the store and buy them anyways. So none of these really worked until I implemented quite possibly the simplest and easiest method that I only thought of at the very end, which was to just take a different route home from the gym. This completely broke the rhythm, and it's essentially similar to just sledding down a whole different path, a whole different hill, if we reuse our sled analogy. I didn't even get the slightest of cravings for these chocolate or protein bars again. And now it's been a couple of weeks since I last had these bars, and I feel no pull towards them. One other small thing that also helped me was preparing food in advance for the entire day. If I just prepared food for one meal, I would end up fitting the bars into that meal. But if I prepared everything, if I prepared breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks for the entire day, I found that it was easier to not eat the junk food. But the key thing was breaking the rhythm. It was keeping that trigger out of sight. And you can apply this in various different ways. So for example, if you simply keep food out of the house, or if you don't have something like a cookie jar, you know, just junk food laying on the counter, even if you just hide it, that will already break the rhythm in a very minor way. Of course, the best thing is to just not buy it at all, but even switching up the location of where you keep your junk food will have you thinking twice and probably reduce the amount of junk that you're eating. If you want to 10x your weight loss, press the first link in the description and join our free school group. At 100 members, I'm going to make it paid, so if you join now, you get it free for life. If I gave you anything of value, consider subscribing to the channel and don't forget to stay savvy with your diet.